And here we go. We are back coming to you live from Coffee Talk on YouTube, Coffee Talk, or at Coffee Talk Live if you're looking for it on YouTube, and also simultaneously being broadcast on Prepper University on YouTube, as well as being shared on the platform Fistful of Radio, fistfulofradio.com, where you can find me in the 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time block, Monday through Thursday. And of course, here is Daniel. That's Dusty's brother, hanging around for a few minutes until he gets bored or distracted, which is not going to take too long, pretty much. He's a good boy, though. One of the strays that we've adopted, that we take care of. Couldn't separate the two of them. Wanted to keep them together and maintain that, as we are starting off here on the 2 o'clock hour, August 8th, Tuesday, August 8th, on YouTube. And again, of course, we will be shared on Fistful of Radio later on, which, if you haven't seen it, it's fistfulofradio.com, and you can find that very easily and check it out. I hope you do. I see Dragon is here. Helter is here. Bingo is here, chiming in this afternoon. This afternoon where I am, it may be different wherever you are. I am in the middle of nowhere in Georgia in a double secret location on double secret probation, for those of you who catch that reference. And we'll give it a couple of minutes for people to catch up. I don't know that everyone gets their notifications or not on YouTube for when there is a live on YouTube. Very often I hear that people are not getting them on time. I even get notifications or messages, that is, from people here and there that tell me a day or two or even three later, I just got the notification for this, which is kind of outrageous, quite frankly. But that's the way of the world, and what a world. That's what it looks like when you get the crap shadowed out of you. And Doc Galt is here. He says, just tuning in. There's Monkey joining us today. As we are about to take a look at some of the things in the news and have a little bit of a discussion about it. Have a little bit of a discussion about some of the things that are going on in the news. I guess that must be the spot right there, huh, Daniel? And of course, for those of you who are listening and not watching, I'm holding a cat. Again, my wife and I, we have kind of a shelter going, and we take care of a lot of stray animals, mostly cats. And this is one of the indoor ones who stays with us now. He's going to be staying permanently. We're not going to try to get him adopted out. He's a good boy, though. Him and his sister, who we found wandering in the woods, or actually they were in the bushes while we were wandering through the woods, and jumped out to get our attention as kittens. Now put him down there. And Chevu Noir is here, says, how are you? Did I pronounce that correctly? Monkey says, my state having its election today on issue number 1. Really? And then Cougar says, I'm just checking in, but I can't stay because I have to deal with my autistic boy right now. Hopefully we'll catch the next time. Oh, well, hopefully you get that sorted out. And Doc Galt says, I get notifications sometimes a day to 3 days late. And there you go. And Chavon Noir says, I'm a listener, not a watcher, still at work. And there is Dilo, says, good morning, I made it. Yeah, and Dilo, it's the same thing. Dilo is listening and not watching, if I'm not mistaken. And I get that. I get people that are like over-the-road drivers, and they're like, yeah, I like to listen to it. And then, of course, if you are an over-the-road driver, listening to talking or talk radio, especially if you can somewhat interact, is better than listening to music for staying awake. And as I pointed out before, my wife used to do that. She used to drive for Werner. Not the best job. There are better trucking companies than Werner, if I may say so. And, we'll go ahead and we'll start pulling up some news articles here and check them out in a moment. And Delo says, "Yup, it's awesome. Yeah, it's a lot better for staying awake to listen to talking. Like I said, especially if it feels like you can engage." Monkey said, "People that oppose it, it's due to the abortion rights crap." And Monkey says, "I don't know if I can link things, but to get context." Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll pull up our first little snippet of news. And this is politicians trying to act like they're doing something, And I'll tell you why as I dig into this article. And this comes from the Associated Press. If you wanted to find it for yourself, it says Illinois to ban advertising for guns allegedly marketed to kids and militants. Really? And H12 is here. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. And of course, if you're listening and not watching, I try to read as many of the comments as I can so that you can follow along and not be too confused. Life is confusing enough. So again, the Associated Press, and apparently Illinois is going to be banning advertising for guns marketed to kids and militants. Really? How are you going to do that? Kid Rocker is here. He said, "Greetings from Russia. You are doing a great job." And yeah, I know on Prepper University, there are several people who watch from Russia. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am on the East Coast. Well, I'm not even really in the East Coast, am I? I almost said East Coast. I was born on the East Coast, but I'm not really in the East Coast. I'm more in the South, being in Georgia right now. So let's see what Illinois is talking about here. And whatever it is, it's a load of crap because it's Illinois. Let's just leave it there. Springfield. Not Springfield from The Simpsons. This is the real Springfield. Illinois will soon outlaw advertising for firearms that officials determine produces a public safety threat or appeals to children, militants, or others who might later use the weapon illegally as the state continues its quest to curb mass shootings. Gun rights advocates say the plan, which Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker has pledged to sign into law, is an unreasonably vague decree that violates not only the constitutionally protected right to own guns, but also free speech. Well, you morons in Illinois gave up to your right to your constitutionally protected rights to how you handle firearms when you let the Illinois Rifle Association dictate for you or on behalf of you to the government how laws were going to be structured in the first place. When the federal government came down on Illinois years ago, more than a decade ago, and was going to insist on constitutional carry because the laws were so screwed up. And the NRA backed out of it because they were like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then the Illinois Rifle Association, again, I lived in Illinois, so that's how I know this. Illinois Rifle Association stepped up and said, "Oh, we'll handle it." And you ended up needing 2 freaking IDs and a 5-day waiting period. So yeah, that worked out great. Congratulations, morons. Anyway, the prime exhibit in Democratic Attorney General Quayne Raoul's efforts in the JR-15, a smaller, lighter version of the AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, advertised with the tagline, get 'em one like yours. The maker says is deliberately made smaller with added safety features to fit younger shooters as they learn from adults how to safely maneuver such a weapon. Raoul says it's marketed to children and potentially entices them to skip the adult supervision and start firing. Oh yeah? If they have an inkling to do that, they're going to do it anyways, whether it's advertised to them or not in any type of a manner. This is very vague. And, you can barely advertise this stuff as it is anymore. It's not like in the old days when I was a kid. and you could flip through the Sears catalog and see shotguns and rifles. All right. Who are they advertising to and how? Because they have a smaller version of the rifle, it implies, um, and this is actually targeted to adults, get them one like yours. So they're telling an adult, hey, they can have one similar to what you have, and then implies that, as you see here, added safety features, fits younger shooters as they learn how to safely maneuver such a weapon. That's being advertised to adults. That's looking for an excuse to crush even further advertising. And again, if you're going to do something illegal, you're going to do it anyways. You're not going to you're not going to somehow be enticed to commit a crime because of a safety measure being advertised to adults on behalf of children. They're just making stuff up as they go. Booger says, good afternoon. And yes, Illinois is crap. And Chevron Noir says, any advice for me political wise? I'm 25-year-old male and don't really care for politics, but people are saying I should care on both sides. Any advice? That, and also just growing up. Advice, anyone who's going to tell you what to think, there's a problem right there. You need to make your own decisions based on how you perceive things, but don't get all caught up emotionally. Try to be logical about it and see how it fits together, because both sides of the coin politically will try to manipulate you emotionally because they know people will tend to overreact that way. And then logic goes out the window, and then they can tell you any rhetoric and it'll kind of make sense because you kind of think you should maybe feel that way about something. So yeah, make your own decisions. Dragon says Illinois' gun control has never made any sense. Half of it seems like a dartboard throw at best. I agree. And Henry says, yes, the ISRA is a joke and full of fuds. I'm working on leaving Illinois. Hopefully you can get out of there. You own a house? I bet your property taxes are terrible. Our property taxes were insane when we were there, especially the amount they take out for school taxes. So one of the biggest failure educational systems in the country takes out the most money from people. It's incredible. But yeah, I thought it was the IRA, but yeah, they screwed people. Helter says this is just asinine, even assuming that some guns are generally designed with kids in mind, and they are. And I've seen, like, you know, the short 22 rifle for learning how to practice on the range and stuff that's made for younger people. It just makes sense, and it implies you're not just going to give the kid a rifle and say, "Hey, go out in the yard." That's not how that works. If you're being responsible. Even assuming that some guns are generally designed with kids in mind, continuing on with Helter's comment, they seem to think kids are out there selling lemonade to go buy a gun on the black market. Yeah, you would think so. And he goes on to say proper gun safety and handling is by far the best way to reduce gun deaths. I can agree with that. And Bam says, well, I would be okay with an AR-10. I'm modest. Doc says, amazing how politicians are worried about advertising about guns. However, advertising for alcohol is perfectly fine. Do you know what the mortality rate is for drunk driving versus guns? Massive, bloody massive. I know it. I've talked about that before because, again, when Stacey Abrams was running for governor in in Georgia, when Stacey Abrams was running for her second attempt in Georgia and failed twice, by the way. She's like the designated loser for the Democratic Party. I think she only exists to collect campaign funds and misuse them. But she had a commercial running. I've talked about this before, and I did a spot on it on this channel, actually. And here's Nostalgic Pod Blast has joined us. He says, hey, gang, how you doing today? Glad you could join us. That she ran a commercial ad, and again, I did a video on it on Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, that the nurse in the commercial says that the number one thing for child mortality in Georgia was shooting incidences. And I pointed out and exposed in that, using both Georgia state data and CDC data and some other resources, that one, the nurse wasn't real, she was an actress, and two, that statistically speaking, shooting is one of the lowest reasons for child mortality in Georgia, and the main reason is actually vehicular accidents. So yeah. You can't trust any of that. You can't trust any of that, unfortunately. And you should, and again, like I was just pointing out to Noir there, that's how they try to tug your heartstrings and play off of emotion to sidetrack you from thinking logically and picking things apart, like I did in that video when I exposed that. Not that anybody saw it, because I'm just a small channel on YouTube. Nobody's watching. And I'm speaking to the choir, or preaching to the choir anyways. Not too many new people are going to see any of that, unfortunately. But those sort of things do need to be exposed, and people need to take their feelings and stick them in a box and just break down the logic, even if it sounds cruel sometimes. It's like, hey, that's not nice at all. But is it true? Is it true? That's really the important key. That's the thing that matters, whether or not it's true. And then you can decide how you feel about it, instead of being told how to feel about it by the media. And here's our next article. Doc Galt says, "You're great, Dave." Well, thank you, Doc. I try. I don't know if I'm that great, but I do try. And then Monkey says, "And if you try to apply the logic, both sides will call you a heartless monster of using logic." Well, call me a heartless monster then. All humans are monsters. Animals are beasts, beasts of the earth. Okay? But if you want a real monster, it's going to be in a person. And we all have either a small one or a big one, a great big fat one that goes out and hurts everybody. But yeah, I'll take being a monster at times. And this comes from America Insider. This is where the article is written from. And this is a big deal right now, as more of this is getting exposed. Not that anything will ever be done about it, but the title of the article is "FBI Caught Doing What? Lying for Hunter Biden under sworn deposition." Say it isn't so. Say it isn't so. The media and the FBI and the CIA and the Department of Justice, no, they wouldn't cover for a presidential family, would they? They wouldn't cover up for a high-level politician. I don't believe it. And of course, that's sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen. And it goes on. During a sworn deposition, FBI Special Agent Elvis Chan. Oh, there's an interesting mix of names. Elvis Chan claimed the Bureau and big tech companies only had one meeting regarding the Hunter Biden laptop story. And a bombshell development, Meta Incorporated, was served with a subpoena from Congress to provide their private small correspondence with the FBI. The FBI likely never predicted their secret email correspondence with Facebook would fall into the hands of Congress and the American people. Odds are they didn't care. If we're going to be honest about it, they really didn't care. Because again, okay, this is all being exposed now. What's going to be done about it? What are they going to do? Impeach Biden? And I'll challenge you again. Demonstrate for me anywhere that a high-level politician, president, has been impeached and anything came of it. I'll remind you that when Nixon was impeached, he resigned because he didn't want to deal with it. They didn't throw him out. Republican Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio says that the politicized FBI has lied to the American people to protect Democrats and the Biden family. The internal communications reveal that the FBI had extensive meetings with Facebook. Chan himself had more than one meeting with Facebook, which directly contradicts his testimony. Chan also testified of having no knowledge about the Hunter Biden laptop investigation. Again, this contradicts what Chan privately told Facebook behind closed doors. In the months leading up to the 2020 presidential election, the FBI and big tech companies wrongfully censored information about Hunter's laptop. You think? You think? I don't know. I don't know. Bam says there should be some punishment for treason. They used to hang you. Yeah, it doesn't seem like anything's done anymore. Dragon says people acting like investigators when it comes to examining the Biden family. Then suddenly these same people play dumb. Makes it difficult for me to take these people seriously. And then Doc Galt says in the Army they would face a court martial, but I've been out for 20 years. Yeah. Once upon a time, they used to shoot you in the Army too. Helter says nothing will happen to this guy, just like the people who lied in 2016. And before that, and before that, and before that, how far back has the FBI been covering stuff up? How far back? I mean, they talked about the FBI. They were embarrassed during the Watergate, along with a lot of other agencies associated with so-called justice in the White House. And prior to that, how far back does it go? They've been getting away with lying to people, lying to the American people, lying to Congress. Oh, Congress has proof now. Proof of what? And what are you going to do about it? You're going to hold a deposition, hold a press conference, have an investigation, drag some people in from Facebook and have them speak before a congressional committee and waste time because you won't follow up on it. How many people have been brought before Congress? Oh, you have to present yourself before Congress or you're going to be held accountable. Ha! Sure. Nobody's been held accountable before Congress since the McCarthy hearings, and half the people that they burned up were innocent. Oh man. Noir says, I remember getting into a conversation with a girl, and when I asked where she got her sources, she said TikTok. Yeah. Doc Galt says they will do nothing. No, of course they're not going to do anything. They haven't done anything so far. They're not going to do anything now. And if they do anything now, it's going to be for show. It's going to be part of the act. Part of the act. They're going to be putting you on, dragging you along, wasting your time, making it seem like they're doing something. If people in Congress, senators and representatives spent half as much time actually doing something as they did pretending to do something to make it seem like they were active, then we'd get a hell of a lot more done, because they spend a lot of time putting on an act, covering things up. It's like you could actually accomplish. It probably takes more energy to fake your way through it than to actually accomplish something. It's amazing. Monkey says, I just now think that Americans in general are just lazy to do anything that is significant. Yeah, well, when you reach a certain level of decadence in any country, in any society, you start getting a lot of really lazy people. And that's where we are. That's where a lot of people are in Europe. It's one of the unfortunate realities of just human nature and the human condition. And we've been slowly plummeting into that for many years now. Coming up on another article here from the Associated Press that we'll read here in a moment. Something from DIY said there used to be tight communities way back when you could leave your door open and borrow brown sugar. Now the neighbors are looking at you to find fault so they can call the authorities. Yeah, and that's another big pet peeve of mine also, DIY, is this rat culture, snitch culture, see something, say something. It's often used the wrong way, but there's something to be said for the whole no snitching concept. It's just that they do it the wrong way. Like, they won't snitch when they know that somebody's been murdered, but they will snitch when you leave the lids off your garbage can. And it doesn't make sense. It should be the other way around. My neighbor's grass is too high. I'm not going to call code compliance and get him screwed over. All right. But if he's beating his kids, I might tell on him. But then in that snitch culture, they got it backwards. he could be torturing his kids and nobody will say a damn thing unless he makes them mad and then they want to get even with him. But if his grass is a half inch too high, they're out there with a ruler and they're calling code compliance to get him in trouble. It just doesn't make sense, that reversal. And then the joke I make is that at least when you snitch on somebody in North Korea, you get a food ration card. Here you don't get shit, and they still do it. It's crazy. And Doc says that's a tactic of World War II Germany snitching. Yeah, sure. But they do it here, and people do it for free. You don't even get anything out of it. Hell, give me a gift card if I'm going to rat on somebody. Damn. No, we'll do it for free. But you do something major. You got women chained up in your basement that you give electroshock to. Oh, I'm not saying a damn thing about it. That's not my business. Oh, man. But anything else that you do, your tree's hanging over the fence into someone else's yard. Oh, I'm going to call a code compliance and screw that guy. Yeah, indeed. It's totally a reversal of concept. Like I said, I can understand certain things that, yeah, I'm not going to be bothered with. I'm not going to get you in trouble over something stupid. But if you're doing something evil, then yeah, I probably should say something. I just don't understand people. Nostalgic says even the ice cream man is under attack in New York City over truck emissions. Take that, kids. Unreal. I've been in Illinois, and this is an example of what I'm talking about. Actually, that since you mentioned ice cream trucks, before we get into this next article, when I was in Illinois, I lived in Elgin. Okay, and there's an ordinance that in Elgin you can't have an ice cream truck, so you got to skirt Elgin with your ice cream truck. And if you cut into the Elgin neighborhoods, you could get in trouble with it. And we had a neighbor, he heard that ice cream truck, he was calling the authorities because, they play the music. The ice cream truck plays the music. Oh, that ice cream truck's not supposed to be out here. Give the guy a break. You don't know why he's cutting through there. There's a big park by there with some animals on display. They got some bison and some elk and some other stuff fenced in this park. And, they would skirt around to get to the other side there where they were allowed to be. You don't know what he's doing. Leave him the hell alone. You're chomping at the bit to call the authorities because you heard the music from an ice cream truck. Give me a freaking break. People are crazy. Doc says, I'm glad I only have one neighbor and he is like-minded. That's good. Anyway, this article is from the Associated Press, and it says, federal judge says California's capital city can't clear homeless camps during the extreme heat. No, leave them out there to fry. Maybe they'll die, and then you'll solve your problem. Sacramento, California. A federal judge has temporarily banned Sacramento from cleaning homeless encampments for at least 14 days, citing the extreme heat forecast this month in California's capital city. Judge Troy, and this is another issue too, how judges overlap each other, trying to be as political as possible, because being a judge is a very political position and they will abuse it, overlap each other and countermand laws all the time to try to put a notch in their belt. And then you can't get nothing done. Judge Troy Nunley in the U.S. District Court for Eastern California issued the order last week after homeless advocates argued that the city disregarded its own protocol by pushing a vulnerable population out of shaded areas during blistering heat. Advocates said clearing the camps in such weather puts homeless people in obvious danger. All they're going to do is take their tent and go throw it up like a block away. I mean, really all the city wants to do is clean up the mess they leave. And you can even see in the picture here, it's just trash everywhere. And I get that. For sanitary reasons, they got to flush these areas out every once in a while. And again, they're just going to move down the damn block. That's all that happens. And this judge is just someone who's either out of touch with reality or, again, trying to put a political notch in their belt. See, I'm all for helping the homeless. Yeah, you are. Sure. You don't care about the homeless at all. Sacramento defines temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32.2 Celsius for those of you who are overseas as being excessive heat. It gets to be 90 every summer in Sacramento. In its protocols, the complaint reads, the temperature at the state capitol is forecast to hit 90 degrees Fahrenheit or greater on 21 days in August, including 9 days where the temperature is expected to reach 95 Fahrenheit or 35 Celsius. The complaint includes details about a so-called sweep in mid-July when the temperature was 91 degrees. Officials moved about 30 people who had been sheltering under large trees, the complaint said. While Sacramento had offered homeless people to relocate to another encampment, the site was already crowded and had no shade. Advocates said in the complaint cites coverage of the sweep in the Sacramento Bee, which is a newspaper. Yeah, all of the encampments are crowded. They offered to help move them so they could clean the area, and they still complained because they don't want help. They don't want help. They never want help. That's the thing, too. That's what pisses me off a lot with talking about the homeless. And again, my experience working with the homeless and my wife working with the homeless, the majority of them, they don't want your damn help. They don't. They'll take whatever you're going to give them for free, but they don't want help. Dragon says all these people in California leadership do is talk and nothing ever changes except for the worst. And then Doc says, what will the privilege do when the homeless overrun their homes? Just saying. Yeah, because then they'll pass an ordinance that says to give them relief from trespassing so that they can be on your property, which is already happening in several states. Helter says California has thrown billions at the homeless problem and it's gotten worse. The problem will never be solved. Follow the money. We know who's getting rich. Yeah. They're wasting billions in taxpayer money. And it's being done deliberately because there are things that could be done. And a lot of it involves just taking a hard stance, which nobody's willing to do because one, it will solve the problem, and two, because it'll make you look bad. But you've got to be willing to look bad. Sometimes you've got to be willing to be the bad guy to get something done, to get something accomplished. And yeah, they're all so busy patting themselves on the back and bending over and kissing their own asses that they can't get anything done. It's ridiculous. Half crazy. It says that's a long title. Half crazy old Christian redneck veteran. Okay, well, we'll just call you half crazy. He says, I work at local food bank. They want free food, not help. Yeah. Then you know, if you work with the homeless, you know exactly where I'm coming from when I talk about the homeless. And again, I sound like I'm being an ass, but it's true. It's just true. They don't want help. Most of them are addicts. Almost none of them are actually veterans. Very few of them are actually legitimate, down on your luck homeless people. Anybody you see with a sign is probably running a scam. And a lot of them are homeless because they like it. They don't want to be part of the system. They don't want to work. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to pay bills. They don't want to be involved with anybody. And yeah, if you offer those people help, their idea of help is give me something free. And if you have anything else in mind, a job program, a shelter, anything, they're like, nah, I'm good. They don't want your help. They want you to leave them the hell alone. And, you know, what are you going to do? Oh, Johnny Future is here. Thanks for joining us, Johnny. He says, sorry, I'm late. I'm listening. That's okay. That's okay. Glad you could make it today as we plow through. And speaking of the homeless, more on the homeless. And you all knew this was going to happen. No surprise here, talking about New York. And this particular article is from Fox News. But again, pick your own poison. You know, I pick out articles from all over the place. It says New York City Mayor Adams announces new taxpayer-funded migrant tent city. Oh, excellent. More tax money being wasted. More tax money being wasted. Didn't he already declare a state of emergency because of the influx of homeless migrants? Because they're flooding into New York from all over. They're crossing the crossing the globe and crossing the country to get into New York so that they can sit around. They were waiting for that free hotel room. They didn't get it. You're screwing everything up, Mayor Adams. They're already spending a fortune on hotel rooms. Many cities are renting out entire hotels and entire motels, and those properties are getting destroyed. They are getting destroyed by these people. You'd think they'd appreciate it. Well, again, not all of these people crossed in here looking to improve their lives. Many of them came looking for a handout or came for other reasons. You can't trust it, which is why you used to have to earn your citizenship so that the government could be sure you were going to be a productive member of society and not just mooch off of it. And Doc says, aren't border states sending refugees to blue states? Yeah, they have been. They because the blue laws, the argument is the blue laws have been allowing them to flood through the border anyway. And the border states are at the point where they're like, we've got all we can handle. You know what? You made these rules. We're going to send the extra ones to you. It's a good way to stir things up in the media, if nothing else. Diving into the article, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, a Democrat, announced that a new taxpayer-funded tent city for illegal migrants will be going up in the Big Apple. Yay! Adams announced Monday that Randall's Island in New York City will be the new spot for the more than 57,000 illegal migrants living in the city that never sleeps. That's a lot, actually, to deal with. That's a lot. 57,000 people to pay for out of your tax money if you live in New York every day. As the number of asylum seekers in our care continues to grow by hundreds every day, stretching our system to its breaking point and beyond, it has become more and more of a Herculean effort to find enough beds every night, Adams said in a press release on Monday. And there's Adams. We're grateful to Governor Hochul and New York State for their partnership in opening this new humanitarian relief center and covering the costs. And we need more of the same from all levels of government, Adams continued. Why don't you thank the taxpayers? Because the governor and the lawmakers of New York State basically decided to spend New York City taxpayer funds to do this. And I'm sure the residents of New York are not going to be happy about it because they already pay quite enough. We all do. We will continue to work with the governor and elected officials across the state to address this crisis as New York City continues to do more than any other level of government, the mayor said. Former New York City Governor David Paterson said the migrant crisis in New York was reaching its tipping point in a recent radio interview. Quote, I think it's at a tipping point, Patterson, a Democrat, said during a radio interview with business mogul John Castamatidis on Sunday. I don't know if I pronounced that right. So there you go. Johnny says, when is the lawmaker ever going to close the tax loopholes of the money these illegals make? And then Doc says, sounds like death by taxes. Yeah, it's the only thing you can be sure of, according to Benjamin Franklin. And Dragon says, he's only doing this so New York City gets federal help. Being nice doesn't make for being a great leader. True. You have to make hard choices. That's not always kind. Sorry, but these migrants have to stop coming. And I agree. Again, you've got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. And the United States is a mess. Every state is in trouble. We cannot take on the rest of the world's problems or keep taking it on. We've been taking it on for decades. Well, they were arguing about this all the way back in the 70s when they were letting all the Haitian immigrants in and all the Russian immigrants. It's like, damn, we can't afford this. They were complaining about not being able to afford it then. This is not the Industrial Revolution anymore when we're like, hey, send us boatloads of people to work in the factories because we don't have enough. Those days are gone. Now we have too many people, and who's paying for it? It's getting harder all the time. Bob says, greetings one and all from Birmingham, United Kingdom. Thanks for joining us, Bob. Talking about America problems here, Jack. Helter says the immigrants were duped by Adams, promising them the world. It's inhumane what's happening to them as well as our citizens. And he goes on to say we need, or he needs, to publicly admit his folly and get these people tended to and return to their countries. Oh, he's going to admit that he made a mistake? Good luck. Good luck with that. Johnny says illegals never pay taxes. No, you're paying them for them, Johnny. You're going to pay their taxes. It'll be all right. You have plenty of money, don't you? Work 5 jobs. Work 5 jobs. Now this next one, and I'm opening this up for a couple of reasons because there's a point that I wanted to make about it. It's absolutely a fluff piece. And you know, I focus on fluff pieces from time to time. We've seen a bunch on Biden recently because they're going to be doing a lot of fluff pieces for Biden as we get closer and closer to the election to make him sound like a regular guy. Oh, that old Joe. That old Joe. What a regular guy he is. He's like my sweet old grandpa. Old Uncle Joe, just like old Uncle Joe Stalin, as they used to call him. Sweet Uncle Joe. Sure he was. While he had 50 million people die in the gulags. Anyways, this is another fluff piece, but not for Joe Biden. And I'll show you who it's a fluff piece for. Get ready for it. Hold on to your seats, folks. Here it comes. And this comes from SB Nation. SB Nation is the name of the website or the name of the news site. And it's talking about Megan Rapinoe, everybody's favorite soccer player. Because as I'm sure you're aware, the soccer team has been getting cannonballed by everybody for their arrogance and their ignorance and how embarrassing their behavior has been. And this person is at the forefront of it. She's like the female version of Kaepernick. You know, she's the female Kaepernick. And just like Kaepernick, she's being used. She's being used by activists. She's being used by politicians. She's being used by the media as long as she is useful. And when she's not, when Kaepernick isn't, when any of these people aren't, who David Hogg, pick your activist. When they're not useful anymore, they'll throw them to the lions. Monkey says, "Oh, Joe, what a klutz he is after falling over the steps 10 times." Yeah, I know. It's the carpeting on the steps. That's why. And he says, "I'm glad Sweden won that match." Everybody is. It's a sad thing when the Americans are cheering for other teams because our team is so unlikable. Bams says purple hair equals poison. Yeah, anytime you see colors like that on an animal, it usually means toxic, and this is no exception. And I think this is interesting. Even just looking at her, she does not look like this. Have you seen actual photos of her instead of airbrushed photos? Oh, they don't airbrush anymore, right? They AI generate stuff. In real life, she looks like she's in her 60s. She is a very unattractive, very worn out looking woman. And she makes me think of Ellen DeGeneres because if you see unfiltered video footage or photos of Ellen DeGeneres, she looks like she's 160 years old. She looks like she should be handing an apple to Snow White. All right. But this has been cleaned up because she's a very unattractive, very worn out looking woman. If her hair was white, you'd swear she was 68. But the article reads, and again, this is from SB Nation, "It's time to stand up for Megan Rapinoe with gratitude and appreciation." You better appreciate this woman for all she's done for you. Ever since her penalty kick misplayed a significant role in the USWNT's elimination at the FIFA Women's World Cup, a seemingly endless online troll parade has made her into the symbol of the team's failure this year. If you search, quote, Megan Rapinoe on Twitter, it's like asking, "Hey Siri, show me what it looks like when the internet's worst people are happy. I never knew so many eagle avatars rooted for the USA to fail. Even former President Donald Trump weighed in, taking a victory lap while America lost and leveling a bit of smack talk in Rapinoe's direction. Clearly, he has nothing else to go on. Aw. As I wrote a few months ago, when pride pisses off the right people, that means it's doing its job based on the type of people who, because you don't want to cooperate with people, you just want to make them angry, right? The type of people who are celebrating one of Rapinoe's few public defeats. Really, one of her few defeats, huh? She's one of the greatest representatives of pride in sports history. Okay, maybe the reason why everybody's picking on her is because they don't like her, because she comes off as being arrogant and snooty, and she has a bad attitude. Maybe that's why nobody likes her. And maybe when she failed, it gave people some relief. And they were like, huh, see, bitch? Maybe that's why. Doc says it's all about division. Any way they can think of dividing. Look at Greta Thurman. Now she's an adult. You don't hear from her much anymore. Or Thunberg, right? Greta Thunberg. I think your spell check just got you. But yeah, and that's another example too. Yeah, as she's no longer the sweet innocent child who had her childhood stolen, which by the way, it wasn't stolen. She sold it. She sold her childhood. But yeah, she's older now, so she can't play the little kid anymore, and they're not as interested. She doesn't get around half as much as she used to. Even when she got in trouble, nobody cared. Monkey says, definitely not biased at all. Yeah, it's a very, very fluff piece article. Dragon says, Megan Rapinoe is a complete example of what is wrong in our society today. Oh, all people is here. He said, she looks like she should be handing an apple to Snow White. LOL. That will be my comeback insult from here on out. I should coin that one. That was pretty good for having no script, because I just read and talk. I don't have a teleprompter here. Monkey said, thought she was more of an example of narcissism. That too. Helter says, Megan Rapinoe has done for U.S. women's soccer with Alyssa Heinerscheid did for Bud Light. The tactic these women took from liberal marketing 101 and implemented: always crap on your customers. Yeah, I know. Nobody likes her. Nobody likes her bad attitude. Nobody likes her snootiness. Nobody likes her high, or as you pointed out, narcissism, because she does put herself on a pedestal. And yeah, when someone you don't like stumbles, people will attack it because that's people's nature. Oh, Doc's got to go. Doc says, got to go, got to drive. Great live. Well, thanks for joining us. And of course, it'll be saved. And of course, also, you can find me on fistfulofradio.com. Fistfulofradio.com on the 4 p.m. Eastern Time slot, Monday through Thursday. Yeah, all people says you really should coin that phrase. That was brilliant. I have my moments, I guess. I have my moments. And all people, yeah, you're the one. You forgot to remind me of something, didn't you? We'll see if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was time to stand up for Megan Rapinoe. Poor Megan. Poor girl. All she's trying to do is get the same pay that a male soccer player gets, even though they get about 1/10 the audience. And of course, audience participation in merchandise is where all the money comes from. And the players tap into that. The players nowadays, they tap into it. Once upon a time, you just played because you loved the game, and it wasn't really these athletes didn't really start making big coin until after the baseball strikes in the late 80s. And after that, I mean, you realized, okay, this is really just about the money. And then they started making crazy $1 million contracts that didn't even make sense. And you got to remember, way back in the day when people just played because they loved the game and they could barely afford bus fare. Back in the original days of sports, the early days of baseball, Babe Ruth's era, and you had to get an endorsement or a candy bar or something to make any money. You were lucky if they paid your hotel room. But that's the way that we've gone. That is the direction that we've headed in. And she's just an example of everything that's wrong in society. And again, as long as she is useful, the media and activists and politicians will use her. And when she's no longer useful, they'll throw her away, just like Colin Kaepernick. There's another guy that nobody likes. There's a guy that was a mediocre football player that nobody heard of and nobody cared about until he put his knee on the ground. He found an angle and he worked it, and it's worked out very well. He's very wealthy as a result of that. And it's insulting considering he was adopted and raised by a white family and acts like he's so oppressed. Complains about, oh, it's like being in the slave market in the NFL because they line you up and they check you out before they let you into the games. Yeah, they're paying you millions of dollars to go and play, and you will lie to get out on the field. So they're going to check you out. And they do it to white players too, buddy. And Jackie is here. He says, darn, I'm always so late, but I'll hang around. Okay. And all people, was it the socio-political beliefs of the black slavery superiors defendants specifically of the United States of America? Oh, hell, look at all that. Well, basically, it was because I had mentioned that my wife is a direct descendant. And there's a little history there that you might find is interesting when it comes to the concept of reparations, because it makes my wife really angry. She does not like, and of course, for those of you who are unaware, my wife is black. She is born in the South, born in the deep South, in South Carolina, in an all-black community with black leadership, went to all-black schools. You get the idea. And she literally is a direct slavery descendant. And the reason that she knows this is because of her family's reparations. Bang. Guess what? They already got them. And so it touches a nerve with her when it comes up. And I'm sure all people in particular, you might be really interested in this. That's why I brought it up. And the type of reparations, because her argument is many of the people who were entitled to it, they got it already generations ago. And the people who are screaming for it now are not descendants and not entitled to it. And neither is she entitled to it because her family already got it. And I'll tell you what this is here in a second after I read this next comment. All people says exactly. Kaepernick's mom was white. White family adopted him, reared him in a middle-class home, and that's how he thanks everyone. He is a pig. Yeah, and I could totally understand where you're coming from with that. Now, the reparations is something called heirs land. And I'll explain this as best I can because the community elders down there and my wife and other family members explained this to me. But you're going to be really hard pressed to find anything about it online because it's not something a lot of people know about it. State governments know about it because they will enforce it. But heirs land, or sometimes heirs property, is land that was awarded as reparations to slaves in the 1800s. Bams says, I want my reparations. Me too. I want my reparations. I've got Polish ancestry, and I know they were treated badly in World War II, and I want my reparations from Germany. But anyways, it's, again, heirs land. It was awarded in the 1800s, and her family and other family groups have been living on it for generations. And it was done in South Carolina and in other places. And it's former plantation property. Her ancestors were field hands. They picked cotton, picked tobacco, dug in the dirt. They were, dug in the dirt in the hot sun, real slaves. Okay. And so as reparations, that land long ago was divided up into family groups. And so one family gets this, however, so many hundreds of hundreds of acres. This family gets this so many hundreds of acres, and so on. Another comment here. Nostalgic says another human prop, Greta, sad since she has a mental issue which is being exploited and used by bad, power hungry people. Yeah, indeed. But they've lost it. She's going to lose her marbles for real now because she's not interesting anymore because she's too old. It was cute when she was a kid. It's not cute anymore. But the way that it worked was you could claim property on that land, and it still works to this day the exact same way. And it's only eligible for true descendants of those original families from the various plantations. So, and it's so simple the way it works. It's crazy because the laws have never been updated on this stuff. So we go to her community, and it's a rural community. Okay, it's little small houses, farms, stuff like this. If you're following me, if I confuse you all, people, just let me know, or anybody else. I'm like I said, I'm relaying this as best I can without having anything to read because it's hard to find anything about this online. So they got X number of hundreds of acres, or however many, and there's a sort of a town elder who oversees it. He keeps the books. Somebody is in charge of keeping the records for the families. If my wife decided she wanted to build a house down there, she'll go down, look around, look for an open area, a vacant lot, if you will. And the minimum, I think, is an acre. You can't take less than an acre, but there's land available. And goes to this guy and says, hey, you know that plot of land that's across from Millie's house, for example, on such and such street? And he looks through the book and he was like, yeah, that's available. You want it? And she was like, and she said, yeah, I want to build something there. And he says, okay. And he writes her name in. That's it. That's it. It's hers. There's no deed. There's nothing. There's no dealing with the state. Nothing. So she goes down there, and the rule is that you've got to put something there, a marker or a shed or something, so that other people won't try to claim it because they'll see, oh, okay, somebody's going to use this. And you can leave it there for as long as you want until you get around to it. And you can build your house there, or you can, sometimes they put like a trailer, a double wide, and they hook up the utilities to it. And it's so controlled that you cannot sell it. It can't be sold. You can't rent or lease it. So if you tried to rent a house on that property to someone who's not part of the family, and they go to get the electricity turned on, the electric company won't do it because it's the wrong name. And Monkey is chiming in here. He says the U.S. Department of Agriculture has info on heirs, property, landowners. Okay, that's a good place you can find it then. And thanks for that, because I probably sound like I'm crazy because most people have never heard of this. They don't realize reparations already happened in the 1800s. But so she can go and build a house there, and whenever she's done with, if she doesn't leave it to anyone, she can will it to her kids and they can live in it, or she can give it back to the community and then they can let someone else get it. It works like that. It's on an honor system, and the taxes have never been updated either. So these people are sitting there on these on acreage paying like 100, 200 a year in property taxes, which is real insulting coming from Illinois and paying like damn near 7,000 a year for a small house, and then 4,800 of it is like school taxes. It's freaking insulting. And Monkey says, I don't know if you can see the link or not. I can't see the link. And it could be that YouTube pulled it. YouTube doesn't like people putting links there unless I do it. And sometimes mine get pulled. Nostalgic says, damn, I wish I had. No, you don't. You don't wish that. But All People says survey shows it's the offspring descendants of post-slavery era migrants, blacks, not the slavery era black descendants who support demand reparations, affirmative action movement. Yeah, they're the ones that are demanding it. But again, like I pointed out, from her perspective, it's insulting. it's insulting. It's like, oh, people screaming and yelling for reparations, and you're not even a descendant. And hell, I didn't even go through that. Speaking on her behalf, she never went through that. She didn't go through what her ancestors went through, but she still can benefit from her ancestors because of the heirs land laws. And it's incredible how ignorant people are by comparison. Bam says, how much are the taxes in Georgia? Probably about a quarter of what they were in Illinois. It's a lot better. Illinois was insane with the taxes. And again, not even having a kid in school and paying damn near 5,000 in property, 5,000 worth of the property taxes almost going to schools. And they've got the worst school system, one of the worst school systems of the country. So you just take my money and burn it, bastards. And then Monkey said, basically the keywords to look for is farmers, DOT, gov, heirs, property, eligibility. Okay. Yeah. And then if any of you are interested, you can look up some of that. But I just wanted to point that out. That's a pet. And I don't know how well I explain that because, like I said, this is for me talking with my wife, talking with family and understanding that, oh, how come, why don't people ever move from this community? Why would you? Free property and free land to build on and almost no taxes and well water, and you're like an hour from anywhere. And you can make that argument, oh, it's too far away. Yeah, but you're left alone. Nobody bothers you out there. That's great. I think that's a great deal. I'd love to be out there. Arakel says, amazing information and wondering how many have ancestors' documents or records. Well, the state knows who you are. Like I said, there was and I got that from the power company because there was an incident I was told about. I was told about where somebody tried to rent a house on one of those and they wouldn't turn the utilities on because they said, no, you're not part of one of the families. So you're not supposed to be there. Bob says Illinois taxes seem very high. They are very high. They're ridiculous. And Bam says, do percentage on house value. I'm not sure. Are you talking about with the property taxes? I'm not sure how that works, but I know the taxes were so low, it's crazy. I mean, you're going to tell me you have a house on like a 2-acre plot and you're paying like $200 a year in property taxes? That sounds like a pretty damn good deal to me. But I wanted to throw that out there because I know All People brings that up a lot about post-slavery era migrants are the majority of people who are complaining, and I thought All People would find that interesting if they didn't already know about it. And I wanted to share that. Bam says, why not make a homestead there? Yeah. Well, she grew up there, so she's not ready to go live there right now. It might be good for a retirement, and it might be good for like a bug out location because they're out there. They are out there. But it's an idea we've kicked around, going and claiming a plot because there are a couple of plots available close to her immediate family even. But anyways, we are over the 1 hour mark, so I will go ahead and wrap up. And thank you all for joining us here today. Remember, we are at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube. If you're listening and not watching and you wanted to find me there, also sharing on Prepper University on YouTube and fistfulofradio.com. And there's my sticker. Fistfulofradio.com, where you can find me Monday through Thursday at the 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time block. And one more here from All People. It says, it's so odd how blacks that whine about slavery, segregation, etc., and demand reparations, affirmative action are the ones that arrived after slavery. Yeah. And like I said, I knew that was a big deal for you. And that's why I wanted to point that out, because it's a unique for me to even have that information, because most people aren't even aware of it. They don't even know that is a thing, that's a thing. And if I wasn't married to who I'm married to, I probably would never know about it. I only know because her family happens to live there and she happens to be a descendant. And All People says, thank you for the information. You're welcome. I hope you can use it. But anyways, I'll go ahead and sign off. Thank you again for everybody who joined us this afternoon. And we will do this again soon.